Summer of the Mariposas, Chapter 22. The Moon. The moon sees everything, but says nothing. It surprised me quite a bit that we should miss Papa. After all, he'd been out of our lives for almost a year before his return. Nevertheless, for weeks after the incident, the girls sat around discussing it, wishing things could have been different, that he had loved us more, that we had been enough of a family to keep him home. Not me. I kept my feelings for Papa tucked away, like a tiny rosebud hidden within the pages of an old forgotten book. Back in the darkest corner of my heart it lay, so well pressed that its fragile edges might chip, break off, even disintegrate if I tried to touch it. Some days, however, for no apparent reason and without my awareness, sorrow would crack my resolve. I'd be tending my herb garden, clipping sprigs of fragrant leaves or replanting tender roots. Then all of a sudden, a single tear would fall down my face without my awareness, surprising me. Perplexed, I would touch it and wonder what had happened to bring it forth. The answer was always there, tucked away within the brittle pages of that closed book. Papa. After a while, however, my wounds began to heal, and I found that I didn't cry unexpectedly anymore. My heart had accepted the loss, and like my sisters, I too began to move on. School started up again, and we all went willingly, even gratefully, back to a normal life. I tended my herb garden every day, and when Mamma cut her hand peeling nopales, I put melanrama on it. When she saw that it had healed quickly, Mamma suggested I might become a doctor some day. I think I like that. The weekend after Easter, we celebrated my birthday with a Sweet 16 party. The event was strange and unusual to us. Our friends and loved ones were used to attending debutante balls, but since I didn't have one the year before, this party was like my makeup quinceañera. It was a beautiful reception. Mamma had taken extra care to decorate the backyard with white ribbons. There were calla lilies at every table, and the deck was shining with the twinkling of white icicle lights that trailed over trees and shrubs to create the illusion of a fairyland, a garden for mariposas. Juanita and the twins were my official damas, my female attendants, and each of us had been assigned a nice, handsome dancing partner, a chambelán. We'd fretted about finding boys to be our official escorts, but Mamma had a lot of comadres, and they had a lot of sons from which to choose. She did a nice job because I was assigned to the handsomest boy in the neighborhood. His name was Mario Cortez, and he had big green eyes. I liked him very much. The night of the party was soft and dreamy, with a warm breeze drifting in and out of our backyard. The girls and I danced with our escorts until the balls of our feet hurt, and we were forced to slip off our heels and dance in our bare feet. Mario kept stepping on my toes, so I had to jump back every time he got creative. It was silly, but we laughed about it most of the night. By midnight, I was still keeping an eye on his shiny shoes when I saw something moving behind the trees to the left of our house. At the rustle of the leaves, I froze, and Mario bumped into me head on, almost knocking me to the ground. He grabbed at my corsage to try to keep me from falling. Ouch, he said, releasing me suddenly. Are you all right? I asked, keeping an eye to the left of me, trying to figure out who was hiding in the foliage. For a second, I thought it might be Peta looking for fireflies, but she was standing at the cake table, digging into her second helping. I cut myself on your corsage, Mario said, sucking on the side of his index finger. Let me see, I said, examining his hand. It's just a pinprick. You'll live. Oh, yeah? Tell that to Sleeping Beauty, Mario protested teasingly. A man stepped out of the shadows into the well-lit yard. Oh, my God, I whispered. What? What's going on? Mario asked, following my gaze. Papa stood in front of our 2 lime trees, looking across the dance floor with his hands in his pockets. However, it wasn't me he was looking at, but Mamma, who was dancing at the other end of the yard with a man in a pinstripe shirt and navy blue slacks, a man we had all come to know and love. I'll be right back, I said, leaving Mario to wonder what was going on. As I walked toward him, Papa turned to look at me, and his face broke into a rueful smile that didn't quite match the sadness in his hazel eyes. It gladdens my heart to see you like this, Odelia, all grown up, Papa whispered as I leaned in and allowed him to give me a small, reserved hug. I had not expected to see him that night, but the mildness in his voice told me he had not come to make trouble. Feliz cumpleaños, mija. Thank you. You look handsome tonight, I said, returning his rueful smile. Thanks, he said, fiddling with the boot slider on his bolo tie and looking at the ground nervously. I didn't want to embarrass you on your special night. Right, I said, not sure of what else to say to him. I know you probably weren't expecting me, but I just needed to come. I wanted to talk with your mama. I had hoped, well, that she and I. He looked sideways toward mama, who was still dancing, oblivious to us. Oh, I said, suddenly understanding. She looks happy, he said. I turned around just in time to see Special Agent Aaron Gonzalez spin and twirl mama to the beat of a fast-paced cumbia. Aaron had been right about CPS. After a brief investigation, they decided there was nothing wrong with our little family, but the experience deeply affected Mama. It had taken a long time, months and months, but Mama changed. She had inched herself into the process like a caterpillar. First, she had changed her work schedule so she could go to school at night. Within months, she'd taken her GED test and received her certificate. After that, she started to attend community college and got a new job as a clerk in a private school, where her boss didn't mind if she kept a close eye on her daughters. She had grown in many ways, but especially in love. In Aaron, Mama had found a strong heart, and she'd attached herself to the offered hand slowly, cautiously, making sure he was the right man with whom to start a new life. But when she'd emerged from the safety of her cocoon, Mama was happier and more radiant than we'd ever seen her. In our eyes, she was reborn into beauty, celestial, divine, and we couldn't be happier for her. She's like a butterfly, radiant, I said, letting out a long held breath. Everything's all right now. Listen, about what happened, Papa began, his voice suddenly full of emotion. Then I felt kind of sorry for him because I knew what he was about to divulge. Stories about him and what had transpired after he left our house that last time were everywhere in our neighborhood. My sisters and I couldn't go anywhere without someone giving us the latest gossip, filling in the holes where someone else had left off. The rumor mill had it that 6 weeks into his marriage, his new wife ran off with a rancher who had a big house on a 100-acre spread in Nuevo Laredo. But that wasn't the bad part. She'd cleaned out his bank account before she left him, taking with her every penny he'd ever saved from his years as a quasi-famous Tejano singer. I heard he was singing again, but tonight I didn't feel up to asking him where or when. It seemed irrelevant, nothing more than idle chit-chat. It's okay, I interrupted. We don't have to talk about it. No, it's not okay, Papa continued. His voice was suddenly clipped, terse, as if what he was about to say made him angry. What I did was wrong. I made a terrible mistake. Well, it's over now, I said, hugging him quickly, woodenly, trying to pull myself away from the situation. I should get back to the party. Odelia? Papa took my hand and tugged on it gently, pulling me in closer to kiss me on the cheek and caress my hair. You look beautiful. Have a good time. Thanks for coming, I said, taking my hand out of his and turning away from him. Okay, he whispered. Then, taking one last look around the yard, he turned around and walked away. As he disappeared behind the lime trees, the side of our house, I stood trembling in my bare feet, wondering if we'd ever be close again, the way we were before he'd abandoned us. Juanita came up behind me. She stood silently beside me, looking past the trees and shrubs at the lone figure of a man moving away from our house, crossing the street, and finally driving away in his car. And he didn't even bring a present, Juanita lamented. She put her arms around me protectively and leaned in to kiss my cheek. He did, I said, swallowing my tears. Her warmth engulfed me. You just can't see it. I turned around and looked for Mama. She wasn't dancing anymore. She was standing across the yard, pulling the twins and Pizza into her arms and laughing at something. It was at that very moment that I knew with certainty we would always be one, together forever, protecting our loved ones, braving the wind, and illuminating the sky.